A little boy no older than 6 stood outside a neighborhood pharmacy, desperately trying to lift his mother from the sidewalk with his tiny hands. Tears streamed down his face as he looked at every passing stranger, but no one stopped. Then a sleek black car pulled up, and the child locked eyes with a woman stepping out in an elegant business suit. Without knowing who she was, he grabbed her hand and asked the question that would change both of their lives forever. "Can you help my mommy stand up?" In that single heartbreaking moment, one of the wealthiest pharmaceutical CEOs in America found herself face to face with the painful reality hidden behind the medicines her company proudly manufactured. If you believe kindness can change lives, forgiveness heals broken hearts, and second chances are worth fighting for, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you can become part of our community that believes compassion is stronger than despair. The warm afternoon sun bathed the busy streets of Brookhaven in golden light as people hurried from store to store carrying shopping bags and coffee cups. Life moved quickly, and most people were too focused on their own schedules to notice the struggles unfolding around them. The small pharmacy on Maple Avenue was one of the busiest in town, serving hundreds of customers every day. Just outside its entrance sat a young woman on the sidewalk, leaning against the brick wall with pale skin, trembling hands, and exhausted eyes. Beside her stood her 6-year-old son, Rowan, clutching a paper prescription bag that contained only one of the 3 medications she desperately needed. The other 2 had remained behind the pharmacy counter because there simply wasn't enough money to pay for them. His mother, Eliza Hartley, had once lived a completely different life. Before chronic autoimmune disease slowly stole her strength, she had worked as a physical therapist, helping injured people learn to walk again. She loved encouraging others, celebrating every tiny improvement her patients made. Then the illness attacked her own body without warning. Simple tasks became impossible. Long workdays disappeared. Medical appointments replaced vacations. Savings vanished under insurance deductibles, specialist visits, and expensive medications that kept her condition from becoming life-threatening. Her husband had promised to stay through sickness and health, but after years of financial pressure and emotional exhaustion, he quietly packed his belongings one morning and disappeared, leaving only divorce papers and unpaid bills behind. From that day forward, Eliza raised Rowan alone, refusing to let bitterness define the childhood of the little boy she loved more than life itself. That afternoon she had pushed herself far beyond her limits just to refill her prescriptions. She smiled through the pain so Rowan would not worry, but as they stepped outside the pharmacy, dizziness overwhelmed her. Her legs gave out beneath her, and she slowly collapsed onto the sidewalk. She wasn't unconscious, but her body simply refused to cooperate. Rowan dropped to his knees beside her, trying with all his tiny strength to pull her back to her feet. He wrapped both arms around her shoulder and whispered encouraging words he had heard her speak to patients years earlier. His little hands trembled with determination, but she was too weak to stand. People walked around them. Some glanced over briefly before continuing on. Others assumed help was already coming. No one stopped. Several blocks away, Vivica Sterling's schedule was running precisely on time. At 43 years old, she had built Sterling Biomed into one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in North America. Investors admired her intelligence. Business magazines celebrated her innovation. Shareholders praised the company's remarkable profits. That afternoon she had arrived unexpectedly to inspect one of the pharmacies carrying her company's newest medications. Her assistants expected another routine business visit filled with reports, inventory discussions, and marketing plans. Instead, fate had prepared something entirely different. As Vivica stepped from her car, Rowan saw her immediately. He knew nothing about luxury brands, executive titles, or billion-dollar corporations. He only saw someone who looked strong enough to help. Without hesitation, he ran toward her. His tiny fingers wrapped around her hand. His voice shook with fear. "Can you help my mommy stand up?" Everything stopped. Vivica looked down into eyes filled with desperate hope. There was no manipulation. No performance. Only a frightened little boy who believed adults were supposed to help when someone fell. She followed him without asking another question. When she reached Eliza, she knelt on the sidewalk despite her expensive suit and carefully supported her shoulders. Eliza apologized repeatedly, embarrassed that strangers were witnessing one of the hardest moments of her life. Vivica reassured her gently while calling emergency medical assistance, though Eliza insisted she knew exactly what had happened. It wasn't a new illness. It was a familiar consequence of missing medication doses because she could no longer afford every prescription. Vivica glanced at the pharmacy bag. Only one medicine. The others missing. She quietly asked why. Eliza hesitated before admitting the truth. She had enough money for food or all 3 medications. Not both. She chose groceries. No mother wanted her son to skip meals. Viveka felt something tighten painfully inside her chest. Inside the pharmacy, the manager recognized Viveka immediately and rushed outside. Hoping to impress the CEO, he proudly explained how well the store had been performing financially. But before he could finish, Viveka held up the incomplete prescription receipt. She asked why the medications had been left behind. The manager answered honestly. Company policy required full payment. There were no exceptions. Viveka stared silently at the receipt bearing her own company's logo. For years she had reviewed quarterly profits, production costs, research budgets, and shareholder expectations. She had never truly seen what those numbers looked like on a sidewalk. An ambulance arrived, but after a brief examination, paramedics confirmed Eliza did not require hospitalization. She simply needed rest, hydration, and, most importantly, consistent access to the medications controlling her disease. Before leaving, Viveka quietly paid for the remaining prescriptions without announcing it. Rowan hugged the pharmacy bag as though it contained treasure, unaware that the greatest gift he had received that afternoon wasn't medicine alone. It was hope. Viveka couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. During the drive back to headquarters, every financial presentation suddenly seemed incomplete. Profit margins told one story. Rowan's frightened face told another. That evening, while reviewing internal pricing reports, she discovered that several essential medications had become significantly more expensive after recent adjustments designed to satisfy investor expectations. The decisions had appeared reasonable inside conference rooms filled with charts and forecasts. Outside the pharmacy, they looked devastating. The following week, Viveka quietly visited Eliza's modest apartment during the daytime. She didn't arrive with photographers or reporters. She carried groceries, children's books for Rowan, and a simple bouquet of wildflowers. She expected gratitude. Instead, she found dignity. The apartment was spotless despite its age. Rowan had turned old cardboard boxes into castles and spaceships. Eliza apologized that she had nothing impressive to offer a billionaire except homemade lemonade. Viveka accepted the drink with genuine appreciation. For the first time in years, she spent hours speaking not as a CEO but simply as another human being. She learned about Eliza's former career, her patience, her dreams, and the heartbreaking choice between groceries and medication. She listened as Rowan proudly described how his mother still helped neighbors stretch after injuries even when she could barely stand herself. Illness had stolen her income, but not her kindness. Those conversations changed Vivica more than any board meeting ever had. Months earlier, Sterling Biomed had planned another premium pricing strategy for several life-saving treatments. Now Vivica cancelled the proposal entirely. Instead, she introduced a patient assistance initiative that dramatically reduced costs for families struggling with chronic illness. Shareholders protested at first, predicting lower profits. Some board members questioned her judgment. Vivica stood before them with remarkable calm. She explained that success measured only by revenue eventually becomes failure measured by humanity. She spoke about responsibility, about purpose, about the people behind every prescription bottle. No names were mentioned. No personal stories were exploited. But every word came from the image of one little boy asking a stranger to help his mother stand. The changes weren't easy. Profits dipped temporarily. Financial analysts criticized her decisions. Competitors mocked the strategy. Then something unexpected happened. Doctors praised the company's commitment. Patients returned with trust. Employees felt proud of where they worked. Sales gradually recovered as loyalty replaced skepticism. Sterling Biomed became known not merely for developing medicines but for making them genuinely accessible. Meanwhile, Eliza's health slowly improved. With consistent treatment, physical therapy, and determination, she regained enough strength to work part-time as a rehabilitation consultant from home. Rowan watched his mother smile more often. The fear that had lived in his young heart slowly faded. One sunny afternoon nearly a year later, the company organized a community wellness event in the town square. Hundreds of families attended free health screenings, educational workshops, and children's activities. Vivica insisted the event remain completely free. As she welcomed guests, she noticed Rowan running toward her. This time he wasn't crying. He wasn't afraid. He simply wanted to show her something. He proudly took her hand and led her across the park. Standing near a row of flowering trees was Eliza. She wasn't sitting. She wasn't leaning against a wall. She wasn't struggling to rise. She was standing completely on her own. Tears filled Viveka's eyes before she realized they were coming. Eliza smiled with quiet gratitude. No dramatic speeches were needed. No expensive gifts. Only the silent proof that compassion, opportunity, and accessible healthcare had given someone part of her life back. Nearby, several reporters asked Viveka what inspired the company's transformation. She looked toward Rowan playing with other children. Then she answered simply, "The greatest lessons don't come from boardrooms. Sometimes they come from a child who believes every adult should stop and help someone who has fallen." Those words spread across newspapers and television interviews, but the real story remained much deeper than headlines could ever capture. It was never about one billionaire rescuing one struggling family. It was about rediscovering the purpose behind success. Wealth had given Viveka influence, but compassion finally gave that influence meaning. Years later, Rowan often volunteered at community health programs. Whenever someone thanked him for his kindness, he smiled because he remembered the afternoon when he had asked a stranger the simplest question imaginable. He had believed she would help because helping was simply what good people did. That innocent faith had awakened a sleeping conscience inside someone powerful enough to improve countless lives. Before this story comes to an end, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment when a stranger's kindness changed your life? Or have you been blessed with the chance to help someone who desperately needed hope? Please leave a meaningful comment sharing the lesson that touched your heart the most. The sidewalk outside that little pharmacy looked ordinary to everyone else, but for 4 people, it became the place where everything changed. A frightened little boy discovered that hope sometimes arrives in unexpected ways. A devoted mother learned that asking for help is not weakness. A successful business leader remembered that true greatness is measured by the lives we lift, not the fortunes we build. And countless families, who would never know Rowan's name, gained access to affordable medicines because one child's heartfelt plea reached the right heart at exactly the right moment. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we all remember that the strongest people are not always those who never fall, but those who choose to stop, reach down, and help someone else stand again.